Hi everyone, it's Marcie Bessaker with Marcie Bessaker Designs. I am a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and I am here to share with you the Painted Poppy stamp set. So when I first saw the Painted Poppy stamp set, I thought golden California poppies. So that's kind of what I wanted to play with today and show you. As you guys know, I am not live today because I am visiting my granddaughter. I'm not yet. I just finished my live video and now I'm creating this one for you. So I'll be wearing pink for the next two videos after I just got off the other video. So I am going to share this fun card with you. So let's get busy right away. So I thought we would make this really fun card, and this is using the Painted Poppies. And there's a couple little things I did that I want to share with you, a little bit different. So we're just going to set that aside and get busy right away. The measurements will be on my blog, but I'm going to read them to you because I'm not sure the blog will be posted while I'm on vacation. It might come after. We'll see what we can do. So the first thing I want to do is create a piece of paper, and I just had it in my hand, of course, right before the video, and I moved everything aside. And here it is. Your white piece of paper is going to be 2 by 5.5. Your black piece of paper is going to be 2 1/8 by 5 1/4. 5 1/4 is going to be our end result, but we're going to start out with the 5 1/2, and I will show you why. Let me pull out my Stamparatus. And what we're going to do is use the poppies here in the Painted Poppies. We'll be using the Peaceful Moments. We're going to be using the Thank You. We're going to be using the Poppy Moment dies. And then we're going to use the painted label. We're going to use the second label here for our sentiment, and we're going to be using the border here. We need 4 of those. So let's pull out our poppies first. We're also going to be using this one right here, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that out now. And I'll go ahead and just put that on this longer stamp here, and we'll set that aside for right now. Now, of course, I created this a week ago because it was going to be today's live video. And so I need to remember exactly how we did this. So I did create 2 of these just in case I goof up. And I'm putting my scratch paper back in. I'm going to take our paper and I'm going to move it up 1 square this way and 1 square that way. But let me grab my magnets. All right, 1 square up and 1 square down. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere that. I think I might just need 1 for now. Let me see what's going on. We're going to go to the edge here. And what we're doing is we want our stamp to go down. You want your stems to be off like this, so they look like they're coming up. You don't want them floating. That's why we're moving it 1 this way. We're moving it 1 this way so it gives us a little bit of room to manipulate the stamp and moving this paper around so that they look like they are all just flowing along. You don't want a line in there. So let's go ahead and stamp this first. We're using Memento. And again, with my Memento, I kind of like to rub it first and then I pat it along just to make sure it gets in all the grooves, which is the good thing about the Stamparatus is we can stamp it again if we need to. All right. And that looks great. Now we're going to lift this up and we're going to move it down here. And now if you look, there's going to be a big space right there. If we go back 1, there's going to be a space. So let's move this out. Let's move it back in the corner, and it still overlaps a little too much for me. But if you pull it over here, come down 2 squares, So the first one was 1 square down and 1 square this way. We still want 1 square this way because you want the stems to be off, but now we're going to come 2 squares down. And if you pull this forward, they may overlap a tad, and that's okay. That's what flowers do, right? So now we're going to get our stamp all inky. Make sure your paper's where you want it. And we're going to stamp that. And now that's perfect. So if you use a grid, or if you don't, there's a grid on there. 1 forward, 1 down for the first stamp. Then move this down 1. And you'll see when you move this down, so it's going to be 1, 2, 3. And it's going to align just right to make it look like a field of flowers, and there's not a big gap in between the field. All right. So let me just wipe that off a bit. All right, so we're going to go ahead and put this aside. Put our magnets back where they belong so we don't lose them. And I'm going to put my foam back in here too. All right, let's set that aside. All right, the other thing we're going to be using is a white piece of paper. Let's stamp our flower, which I used the larger one before, and I think I'm going to use, yeah, let's just use the larger one again. I like how that looked. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and put it on a block. Use my memento again. Let's stamp that. So we need 1 flower. And we're going to need a couple of leaves. I used 1 of each leaf. Oh, these are this is kind of big. I'm really, you know, how often do you get to the end of your crafting or the end of the year or the end of the catalog and you have not used some stamp sets yet? There are so many wonderful stamps that it's just so hard to use them all sometimes. There's so many things and so many ideas, but gosh, there's a lot to do. So I am really trying to use a lot of my product this year, and I'm also branching out and doing things that I may not have normally done before. And so it's really actually been a lot of fun and a big challenge that I'm loving. So every time I do something a little different, sometimes I tend to get into more complicated cards. I don't know why. And I don't mean complicated as in they're hard. There's just a lot of steps to them. They look complicated, but you know as you go along, they're not as complicated as you think. All right, so I'm going to take this, which is like the shadow ink part, and I'm going to go ahead and add a little color to that flower. So we're going to use Mango Melody, which is one of my favorite colors. All right, I think I'm going to stamp off this time once and then stamp on. Just adds a little color because there's so much going on that page. All right, so I did that, and now what I want to do, I already did our thank you. I'm going to do another one quickly because I have another card without a thank you. So let me pull in a piece of white paper. Thought I might have another scrap somewhere. Here I do. All right. So we're going to pull this in. I don't need this right now. And we are going to, let's do our thank you out of Peaceful Moments. And I want that in memento. I want to show you how great that these labels are. All right. All right, nice and crisp. And now before I move on, well, I could do it after. Let's do it after. So let's pull the die out. And I mentioned that it's going to be this second one right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that aside really quick. Let's get some coloring done really quickly first on our leaves, and then we'll die cut. I like to die cut after. So I have our Old Olive, and I'm going to use the dark one first and just kind of do a little shading, go along the line that they put there and a little towards the bottom. And then I'm just going to go straight down the stem. Okay, so there's my, oh, let's do this one. It doesn't have to be super neat because I want the center to be a little dark. So I'm just going to kind of do that. And now I'm going to take the light one and color this in. So I like to start towards the bottom and work my way up for most of the way. And then I like to go the top to the bottom. I want the dark to kind of stay in the center. And I also don't want the ink going out the tip of the leaf. And if you get too much ink going that way, sometimes it'll start bleeding that way a little bit. And I don't want that. So I'm going to come back downward. I want the ends a little lighter. So I'm going to blend down here and then come downward. Again, blending. And then come downward. So you see how it kind of keeps the darker green down towards the bottom. But I want to start down here so I can kind of blend it and then come down. All right, so there's that one. This one I'm going to blend in the center outward. And again on this side, center outward. Okay, now I'm going to come from the outside in and the top in. Because you don't want, alcohol ink goes with where you're brushing. So it kind of follows you where you're going. So if I'm going this way, it's going to continue pushing that way. And number one, it's going to push my darker color outward, which I don't want, and it's going to push the ink outward, which I don't want it to saturate the black ink. Even though Memento is perfect for alcohol ink, I just don't want it to pick up that extra ink. So we're going to let those go. And now let's die cut this out. I have this leaf goes here, right below, and this one, I believe, let me make sure. I think I cut it out, but now I'm wondering. No, I did cut it out. So I did cut that one out, which is fine. So let's cut these out. I need my flower die, which is right here. All right. So with our new magnetic plate, let me show you. We're just going to put that on there. I'm going to put it towards the edge just because it tells you move it around. I'm going to put this right here where my flower is. I'm going to put this leaf over here. And I am going to, you can see, you can move them around and they're not going to move, which I love about this plate. Set my second plate sliding away from me. All right, I'm just making sure they're on exactly how I want them. Everything looks good. Oops, let's do this too. I have room. All aboard. Same thing, just drop the magnet on, put it where you want it, and no tape. You know I like my repositionable tape, but oh, I just pushed a magnet with my own hand. That's not good. All right, so I like repositionable tape. We all know that. And I do not use it anymore, which is kind of nice. All right. So here we go. Here we go. Got our leaf. And there we go. Now you can tell I've used my magnet a lot. It is self-healing. I don't have to worry about having grooves in my mat, my magnetic plate. All right, this is clean. I'll put it away. Let's put the dice back so I don't lose them. This goes on the other one, other one, other one. This one's not it. This one, the painted labels. Here we go. Perfect, perfect. And you'll notice there's 2 leaves, so if you have a lot to cut out. And then of course this is what I already cut 4 of these out. So you just need 4. I already did that ahead of time. Remember, I wasn't sure if I was going to be using this one for my live, and I like to have a few things already done. And since I used my other set, now this one has a little bit done already. So, all right, so on our label, I like the white crisp, but I kind of like to change it up a little bit sometimes. So I'm just going to add a little bit of this grungy color look to it, not color, look. I'm going to go with the mango though. But I'm going to go straight on because that sentiment is loud and bold, and I'm going to do that also with the color. All right. So these can be put away. All right. Now let's start adhering. So what I did with this, now I left this just a 1/4 of an inch longer because I kind of want to see where I want my flowers to start and stop. I like that this looks like the flowers are continuing. It's nice and close to the edge. So I'm going to cut this edge. So I want 5 1/4. So I'm just going to come up to 5 1/4. And you know what I like to do is I like to just make sure that it matches up with the black. So we're just going to go, sometimes I glue it ahead of time, but this time I'm just going to, because they are even on the edges, I'm just going to line them up at 5 1/4 just to make sure everything lines up. And I'm going to cut them both at the same time, and there we go. And both edges were so close to being to the edge that this works out fine for me. I meant to cut the other edge, but it really is okay because it's very close. And sometimes there's a bigger gap than you think, and then you're like, that's too far. But this worked out nicely. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some glue. My glue is always low during videos. Do you notice that? That just tells you that I also craft in between videos. Because it seems like I'm always needing a glue during a video. All right, this should be fine. And so I just like to line it up on a line. I love the grid sheets. This is just a tiny bit, which is why I like the liquid glue for this one, because I'm going to put it on there and I'm just going to make sure by having the background here, it just kind of lets me know the darker background. I can kind of see where the image is on there. So that's fine with me. Now here's the tricky part. We're going to take 2 of these each, and we're going to glue them on here. And what we're going to do is we're going to glue up to, let me find my pokey tool here. We are going to glue all the way up to the line right here on the inside line. So on this side over here, because we already see black over there. So we're going to align it like that. So you can see all the pretty swirls, but you don't need to add an extra black line. And that just helps us get a really good line of where we're going. So we're going to start with the first one. And I'm just going to go down. Fine. Now we're going to take this. And I did go over a little bit, got a little messy, but that's okay. I'll show you how to clean that up. And I want to make sure the black is on there. It's all the way up to the line, which it is right there. So what I do is I have a towel here, and I'm just going to press and lift, and it's going to take off that extra glue. And the good thing about this green glue, or the multi-purpose glue, is it does rub off, but I think this is going to be fine. I got it well enough not to worry about. Now we're going to add the other one on here, and we're going to butt it right up against it. And this is where you're going to be able to tell if you need to cut more off or not. And I'm looking, because my other one I went exactly 4 1/4, which is kind of funny because this one is shorter. Let me measure this really quick. Let's get our measuring out here. I mean 5 1/4. That is 5 1/4. Now let's get technical here. Let's see. This one is, oh, it's 5. Okay, so we'll just cut that down. That is no big deal, and it's even easier once we put the trim on. So we'll just do that in a second. All right, so now I think I got my measurements confused on what I measured before and what I was measuring after, but it's 5 after and then 5 1/4 ahead, or I thought it was 5 1/4 after, but that's okay. All right, so we're just going to line these up. You're going to butt the two borders right up against each other. That you don't want them to overlap. You just want them to be side by side. Okay, so that is side by side. And now when you come over here, make sure you start at this end, not that end, because this part you're going to cut off right here. So you don't want to start up here, because then you're going to be all cattywampus, right? All right. So we're going to add a little glue again. I need to clean my glue tip here. Let me see. Okay. And now we're going to add this on. I think I want a little more glue. I'm brave, but not that brave. I want to make sure it's not going to go anywhere. Have you gotten cards in the mail or sent cards and then like they come to you and not stuck together, like the front panel just comes out separate? That has happened, and I just don't want that happening on my cards that I send out. So I try to make sure, I don't want too much glue to get it all gooey, but I want to make sure there's enough on there to hold my project. All right. Again, line it right up. That just makes such a pretty border. Okay, so there's that. Now I'm lucky enough to have my little guillotine. I'm praying they come out with more of these because I would love to use these in class. These are great. They take up less room. I have to say they're not perfect because they are not long enough for, you know, bigger items or projects, but it's perfect for stuff like this and just to cut little squares and sentiments and whatever. So I do love that. Okay, now we're going to color, and I have my blends, and I have the dark and the light Mango Melody. I'm going to use the dark first, and so what I did is I used the smaller end, and I'm going to pick out some of the larger, more open flowers. and I'm going to color them with the darker. So I'm going to just, and I'm not going to be shading and doing any of that because these are so little. You don't want to keep trying to put too much color on these because you'll just have a mess. But I'm going to try and not get my head in the way too. But that one's nice and open. This one's pretty open. So I just wanted to get a little different color instead of them all being the same color. And just kind of pick and choose some different ones to have a bolder color on them. And so these just reminded me, like I said, when I first saw the stamp set of California Poppies. I haven't seen California Poppies in a long time, actually. I think mostly because when I go up north to visit my family, my kids are all up there, we usually fly, or I usually fly. When my husband and I both go together, a lot of times we drive because we're just taking our time and we just like to drive. But I haven't seen them in a while, and of course I probably won't now with the fires this year and everything. I don't know. But they're wild, growing in California. I'm sure they're there somewhere. I just haven't seen them. Haven't been traveling much this year, obviously. All right, so now I'm going to take the lighter and I'm just going to go around and fill this in. Fill in all of my gold poppies. And you can tell this is a little lighter, but still a goldy color. This one's a little more goldy orange color. And it doesn't have to be completely filled. I just kind of fill the best I can. And just make like a field of poppies. When you see these California poppies, that's what you see. It's just a field of them. On the side of the highway, there's just a whole cluster of them. Randomly, do you just see a few? You usually see a whole cluster. So I thought, well, how pretty would this be? Now, on this card, we're going to leave the background white, but how pretty would it be if we did like a sunset in the background or you know, to grass or something? But that would be a lot of masking and different things. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I don't think I could do that. I mean, I sure I could, but that's a lot to handle. I'm trying to make simpler cards. I have a lot of new customers that are very new to stamping. And so I'm trying to do a little bit of, for classes especially, a little more simplistic and trying to stick with 1 or 2 stamp sets. Now this one I pulled out all of them to the bundle, or to the suite. But I wanted to just kind of make it a little more simple and just show that all you do is add that border, and that's going to add so much to your card. And of course the alcohol ink, somebody was asking me the difference between alcohol inks and regular inks, and I'm going to show you because this one's also Mango Melody, and I'm going to show you the difference between them. And it'll kind of give you an idea. Now this is a lighter color, so it's not going to show you the drastic difference like a brown would or a blue, but it'll kind of give you an idea. So I will show you when I'm done coloring this. Almost done. It's a simple color, just not doing shading like I said. My shading is adding those pops of larger bold color in there with the dark. All right. I'm going to hope to get one more video done for you guys before I leave. And not promising on that, but we're going to try. I have a class to prepare for the day I return, so that's going to be a little busy. Okay, so I'm going to add that. Now to show you, here's this piece of scratch paper. So here is the dark Mango Melody. Here is the light. Now it's going to be easier if I show you Here, I have an extra piece right here that I did. So here is the light one. This is going to be easier because you can see the ink, the black, so you kind of get an idea. Here is the dark one, so you can still see the black ink really well. And then here's the Mango Melody ink. And so if you're trying to fill it in, number one, you can see I kind of rubbed a little bit and you can see the paper already starting to roll. With alcohol, it doesn't. It's really fast. But I could do it a lot lighter, like that. But it gets a little harder when you're using darker colors. It still works. It's just a lot darker. Okay, so that is Old Olive. This is light Old Olive. It just flows so much smoother. And then this is the dark Old Olive. Oh, that's the dark. This is the light, sorry. So you definitely can do it. It's just you have to be super careful on how you color and do it lightly and quick. Because if you just do it just a little bit, you can start seeing how your paper is going to roll right there. And it really saturates your paper. Whereas if you use your alcohol inks, you can just see, let me pull this up. You can just see how the liquid just kind of, it's really fluid. Whereas that one is going to start rolling your paper if you do it too much. So you can do it. Some of the colors are a lot darker, like a brown or dark blue or anything, but I prefer alcohol, but I'm going to show you what I do use the markers for. All right, so I'm going to set this aside, but first we're going to let it dry and we're going to add our, oh, you know what, let's add it to the card first and then we'll do our Wink of Stella. So this is ready to add. So I'm going to go ahead and use our Stampin' Seal Plus. And what I do is I try to go right along the edge where your border is so it stays there. I use my grid sheet and I just go down one line on the grid sheet. Just kind of get an idea where you want to put it. I'm going to go down one line and right about there. To me, that's center. All right. With this die, I forgot we didn't cut out our black, our background. So let's take our die and get a piece of black scrap paper. I don't have black scrap paper right here, so I'm just going to pull out a panel that I have. Oh, that's a card base. Don't want that one. All right, so I have my black. Let me cut this piece down just a little bit. All right, and then what we're going to do is get a die cut here real quick. It's so much more fun talking to you guys live than recording, but I just wanted to record something for you while I was gone. I'm like, no, I can't go. I gotta craft with my friends. Okay, so again, my trick, cut this in half, add your glue to the back here. My poor glue is, and so just add it on there, just add that little pop of color there. Kind of figure out how far you want it down, little or a lot. And what I forgot to do is sometimes it's easier because they're exactly the same. Is to cut off just a little, not to the very edge, but just, you don't want it too far up because you want to make sure that you get your whole image at the top there. but like this. Just kind of do this, but keep your corners. Make sure you put the glue on the white and not the black, because that way, no matter where you put it, how far up or down you put it, you're covered. And then just kind of start down a little bit and come up. You have plenty of glue to hold it. And then just kind of make sure that's where your placing's at, that you're good with it. All right. Now we're going to cut out this other green leaf really quick. Now I like to cut the bigger chunks off first, just so they're not in your way. Because I figure I usually get going and then I'm like, oh, I don't want to stop and cut that off. I'll make it. And then I like to add that character. So wherever there's like a little bump or circle, I like to just add that, because that way when you have your green and then you have your little white border, it's really not that bad because it's got character. It's not a big chunky border around the outside. So you see how I'm just making it have a little bit of character around it. Just kind of follow the lines. And just kind of move it even. It doesn't have to be perfect. I like to go somewhat close though. So if you kind of get far away, I like to go back and make sure it's not that far away. All right, and just follow it around. Move your paper while you're cutting slowly. All right, here we go again. Your scissors are really doing all the work. All right, come down, turn again. Remember, you're moving your paper. And see, those aren't exactly perfect, but that's okay. You're not going to match them up. You can just tell that there's a difference. All right. And then straight down. Okay, so there's that. We are going to pop up our sentiment. Let me find my dimensionals here. I'm going to definitely put 2 in the middle, just because that's where that paper is kind of loose. I put the glue more on this end, so I just want to make sure that that stays down. And so there is our sentiment. So I'm going to put that over here. I don't want it to the bottom, but I don't want it over all my lacy stuff. So I just kind of place it where you think. I'm going to take 2 dimensionals on my flower. Oops. 2. I'm going to do 1 on my leaf. And I'm going to do little ones on my big leaf here. Oh, I think I found my missing snowflake from my last card. I knew I had it somewhere. It must have flown away and stuck right there. All right, so I'm just going to put 3 little ones here. So let's take all these off. Okay, those are off. This one's off. I like to place my flower first so I make sure it goes exactly where I want it. And I'm just going to have it kind of overlapping just a bit. All right. I'm going to stick my larger flower down in there. Just kind of, let's see, where did I put my, okay. Just kind of over and out a little bit. And then I want my larger leaf kind of overlapping my bigger, thicker leaf, but smaller leaf. And just kind of put that there, because I'm going to put some dots there. And I used some old black ones that I had in my stash for my other one, but we're going to use these really pretty gold glitter ones. But first, let's do the inside of our card. I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it inside my sentiment set because I will use this another time. All right, so on the inside, I'm going to make sure I have this cut down already, and I do. So what I do here is this is where I use the markers. So I'm going to use the gold, and you could use the Stamparatus right now if you wanted. It would ensure that you get a good crisp image, but I think this is small enough to be okay with just the, you want to make sure you get all the way up to the flower with just these two colors. I think it's going to be fine. And color, now don't forget to huff. And then I put the stem down a little ways. You want it towards the very bottom. Oh, I rocked it. Look at that. Look what I did. I rocked it too much. So we're going to do it again. Turn it over. Yay. New piece of paper. All right. So let's do this again. I always get like, ooh, got to do it quick before it dries. All right. So we're going to color it. I wiped it off first because I don't want my color to be mixed up with the other color. All right. So there's that one. And now the green. You want to be fairly quick with these because they do dry fairly quick, but as long as you huff on it, you're usually okay if you're not doing like a whole bunch of colors, like a big scene or anything. All right, hold it still. Don't rock so much like I was. And then there you go. There's your flower for the inside of your card. It's a poppy, the same colors. Just kind of gives you a little pop of color there. So we'll put that in. Okay. I like to look at the bottom. I think people look at this more than they look at the top because their eye goes here, but for whatever reason, I just think you can see that there. All right. And now what I did is some Winkostella. And I just kind of lightly went over the flowers. Now I didn't wipe this off once first because I just used it on another card. So I knew it hadn't been sitting there getting all inky. Sometimes the ink kind of gets to the end and then it blobs out on your project. So you want to make sure that you just kind of wipe it off first before you use it. You don't want a big blob to just ruin your project, especially when this is pretty much the last thing you're going to do on your project. So I just added a little Winkostella everywhere, all over the poppies, just so they glimmer all pretty. And just, I mean, Winkostella, you don't even have to really be super careful about. You just kind of wash it on a little bit and just dab it on the tiny ones. And it just adds that little bit of color. So this was really an easy card. Make sure I didn't miss any flowers, and I didn't. I'm going to do a little brush in here lightly. You don't want a lot because that's ink. And when you mix your ink with your Winkostella, it's kind of like water rubbing on it, and you don't want it to rub all crazy. Now this one, now see I shook it and it just, see it blobbed out, so you got to be careful. So don't shake it over unless you want splatters on your card. So I'm just going to lightly go over, and you're going to see how the color is going to kind of run and become a little darker, which is one of the reasons I chose to do a lighter image on that. All right, so I'm going to let that sit and dry for just a second. And we're going to pull in our gold glitter enamel. Look how pretty those are. Gold glitter enamel. And there's like little specks inside. They're so pretty. All right, I'm gonna make sure it's dry. And it is. So what I'm going to do is, let's take a large one and put it in the middle of my big flower. I want to take a medium one. Okay, medium, and put it up here. And then I'm going to take a medium and a small one and put it there. And then there's a tiny one, because that's 4. And then there's a little tiny one I'm just going to add right there. So there you go. My golden painted poppy card. And here's the original one. I had the black, because I did have a bunch of those extra in a project that I had a long time ago. And so I thought, oh, you know what, those would look good on there. But I really do like these because they glimmer like the Wink Stella does. So I hope you guys like this card. I will be back live as soon as I can. I'm going to try and get one more video done for you, hopefully, if I can. I will post this to my blog, and you can find my blog at marciebesseker.com. That is my hostess code for the month of September. And so if you purchase from me and it's less than $150, then if you could please use that code, I would appreciate it, because that will go towards some Stampin' Rewards, and that's where I like to get the items that I would normally not get, but create with for you, so that I can give you guys a big variety of things. And I also like to do some giveaways and things like that, so that's where that comes in handy for me. If you put an order in before over $150, then please do not put the code in, because I want you to get those rewards. So I hope that makes sense. If you'd like to subscribe to my blog, that would be fantastic. You'll get notified when I do post items. And a lot of times I do post PDFs and, you know, the information, the supplies that I use, the measurements, and all that type of stuff. So that's where you would get that. I am normally live on Tuesdays at 2 o'clock and Sundays at noon, and that is Pacific time. I'm in California, so that is Pacific time. Again, if you would like to subscribe to my page, my YouTube channel, then you will get notified when I go live. If you hit the notification bell after you subscribe, you will get notified even if you are not on YouTube. You should get notified that I am live and you are able to come over and watch me, or know that you can come and check it out when you have time. And if you liked what you saw, or have liked videos that you've seen that I've done, I really appreciate it if you give a thumbs up. And that just kind of gives me a good idea of what items you guys are interested in seeing, and what types of techniques and different things. And that helps me move forward with future videos for you, because I want to make sure that's something that you are interested in and would like to see. All right, everybody, thank you so much. I hope you have a fantastic rest of the week. I will try to get another video done for you before I leave on vacation, and I will see you guys live really soon. Have a great week.